Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to LTI webinar session 71 on the title Differentiated Instruction Why and How. Before we proceed to the session, I'd like to play the promotional video of LTI. I request all of you to watch it and then we'll continue with the session. Welcome back. I'd like to begin this session with a happy note. I'm happy to share that our signature product, Journal of English Language Teaching, a print journal, has now been included in the UGC CAR list. And there is another information. We have extended the last date for submitting abstract for our annual conference, which is to be held in the month of November. So we'll be sharing the links to our journal as well as to our conference website by email at the end. Now I'm happy to introduce the moderators of this session, Mr. Susairatnam and Ms. Ranjini Shankar. Mr. Susairatnam is a teacher educator training both lower and upper primary government school teachers. He was one of the scholarship winners by the British Council to attend the IATFL conference at Liverpool in 2019. He also heads LTI Thiruvarur chapter. Welcome, sir. Ms. Ranjini Shankar is an independent researcher. At present, she is working as a teaching associate in a short-term professional communication workshop being conducted by Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Hyderabad. She has taught English at all levels of schooling. I welcome you, ma'am. Now over to the moderators.
Good evening, everyone. I'm extremely happy to introduce our resource person for the day, Ms. Meena Sridharan. Ms. Meena Sridharan is a training consultant and has over 30 years of teaching and training experience. She has worked all over India and overseas. She is a training consultant with the British Council's state government projects, which have covered almost all the Indian states. She was a visiting faculty at IIM Ahmedabad as well as Flame School of Business in Pune. She was closely associated with the Regional English Language Office of the US State Department, having trained teachers for the Access Micro Scholarship Program for underprivileged students. She has written textbooks for CBSE schools. She works extensively with NGOs and teachers of economically backward students, especially in the Konkan area. Ms. Meena Sridharan is passionate about teacher development and is constantly exploring new avenues of learning, both for herself and for teachers. We welcome you, ma'am.
Ma'am, you need to turn on your mic also.
Okay, thank you everyone for that welcome. And we'll start off with the workshop. Let me just share my screen. Yes, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Okay. Okay, so hello everybody, and this is going to be partly workshop and partly webinar. It's about differentiated instruction. Before we start, I'd like you to take a good look at that graphic on top of the title and think about what it means to all of us. We are all teachers and we have groups of children in our class who are at different levels of ability and competence, and that's what this is all about. So differentiated instruction is also about teaching mixed ability classrooms. So let's look at the learners you have in your classroom. Some questions first to all of you. So on an average, how many learners do you have in your class? I want to have the answers based on these choices. On an average, how many learners do you have in your class? A, B, or C? Can you start typing into your chat box, please? Fastest finger first. Do you have 20 to 30 or 30 to 40 or more than 40? Okay, a lot of C's I can see. One B, one lone B somewhere, yes, and one solitary A. Okay, mostly C's and B's. Okay, good, good. Okay, thank you. Hold on. Now let's go to the next question. Among your learners, what would you say is the ratio of higher achievers to lower achievers? What is the ratio of higher achievers to lower achievers? A, B, and C choices. A is 50 to 50. B is 40-60, and C is 20-80. This is high to low. What is the ratio? Can you put in your answers? Ratio of high to low. Okay, answer still coming for the first one. Again, mixed answers I'm getting. B, B, C, A. Good, I can see some A's. Mostly B. Okay, one A. All right, good. I can see a lot of B's, which is quite heartening because the number of C's are fairly low. All right, everyone, now that we've got these two figures in our heads, let's carry on and see what this is all about. So let's get into the topic. And I want you to keep this in mind, that you have more than 40 in your class and that you have a 40-60 ratio or a 20-80 ratio in your class. So this is the one size fits all approach. Most of the time when we are teaching, or some of us, we feel that, the whole class has to be taught together. So this is a one size fits all approach. You can see in that graphic there, the interviewer is saying for a fair selection, everybody has to take the same exam. And that means climbing the tree. And then you have a variety of animals standing there for the exam. And you also have a fish in a bowl. So all these animals are supposed to climb the tree to pass the exam. And that goes with what Albert Einstein has said. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking that it is stupid. So this is the one size fits all approach, which is what we are expected to do very often in our curriculum as teachers. So what are the learning outcomes of today's workshop? By the end of this webinar, you will be able to understand the meaning and the implications of differentiated instruction and learning. You will explore strategies to integrate this approach into your classroom with your own materials. You will appreciate the impact on other kind of approaches. We are thinking of inclusive approaches also. And we will also look at the pros and the cons, that is the plus and minus of this approach, and then make some practical and realistic choices about how much we can adapt in our classroom. I am not saying that this is some kind of magic formula. This is one approach among many other approaches, and it has its advantages and its disadvantages, and it's up to us to understand what we can productively use from this approach. What are the theories? Now, these are theories which all of us are familiar with, and these are the basis of differentiated instruction. So we have Vygotsky. All of you, I'm sure, as experienced teachers are very aware of all this. Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, which means that the learner's ability to perform tasks with and without assistance, within that gap is where the learning happens. Then Jean Piaget, constructivism, how they construct knowledge, how learners construct knowledge from their own experience. And of course, we have Howard Gardner, theory of multiple intelligences. People say that differentiation is based on the theory of multiple intelligences, where you have a basic set of intelligences. And of course, earlier there were 4, and now researchers increased it to 8. And learners fit into one of these. Again, I must say that recently there has been a lot of debate and controversy about the multiple intelligences theory. And people have been saying that we cannot classify learners as being of one intelligence or the other, belonging to one type or the other. So these are just the theories which are the basis of differentiated instruction. So now our first section is looking at what is differentiated instruction. We were looking at why and how in our title, but now let's first examine what is the differentiated instruction all about. So the acknowledged guru of differentiation is an educator, an American educator, who's had about 21 years of experience in this field alone. She works as senior professor emeritus in the University of Virginia, and her name is Carol Ann Tomlinson. She has published multiple books on this topic, and she is the acknowledged teacher and leader in this field. So she says this is the definition from Carol Ann Tomlinson. It can be defined as a philosophy of teaching. It's based on the premise that students learn best when teachers accommodate the difference in readiness levels, interests, and learning profiles. So these are the key words here: readiness level, interest, and learning profile. So teachers have to adjust their teaching. Then she continues to say, whenever a teacher reaches out to an individual to vary his or her teaching in order to create the best learning experience possible, then that teacher is differentiating instruction. So when you try to adjust your teaching method to the needs of the student, that is differentiation. In many ways, all of us as teachers are doing it in our classrooms. Of course, we are all doing it. We do try to accommodate different students. We do try to accommodate different types of students and learning styles. Only thing is we don't have a form and a structure, and that's what we are going to look at. What kind of methods, what kind of strategies we can use to put this into a proper form. So this is what Carol Ann Tomlinson is saying, that when a teacher tries to create the best learning experience possible by varying the teaching, that teacher is differentiating instruction. So she classifies DI, I'll call it DI for convenience, into 4 elements. So based on the readiness, the interest, and the profile, she's got 4 classifications. And we have content. On the left, you can see content, process, products, and learning environment. So content, you can see the definitions there. Content is what the student needs to learn. That is what the curriculum or the learning he's getting from the classroom. Process is the activities or the various things which the student is doing in the classroom. Those are the activities, the classroom activities, the assignments. Products are what is the product of the learning. So culminating projects, so that you apply the learning and then it produces something. And the learning environment is how the classroom works and feels. So these are the 4 main elements of differentiated instruction. So how do we integrate these into the classroom? Now I'm going to show you some techniques. The left will be the 4 elements: content, process, product, and learning environment. Okay, and on the right we have some techniques. They are not in the correct order. So content is definitely not, 1 is definitely not A. 1 is not the tools for learners to demonstrate knowledge. So can you put the right-hand side techniques into the correct order? You have to match the left column with the right column. 1 is what, and 2 is what, 3 and 4. Can you do that and put it in the chat box? Yes, let's see who gets the answers. Please read it. You have to put the number and the alphabet. What is 1? What is 2? What is 3? What is 4? Okay, Anil Kumar is saying 1B. I'm getting a lot of 1Bs. Manisha Ghosh saying 1B. 3D. Okay. The last one should be easy. 4th one, learning environment. B. 1D. Okay, somebody's done that properly. All right, let's just look at the answers. Good attempt. Many of you have got it right. It's going too fast for me to see all the answers. Okay, shall we look at the answers now? 1B, 2D, 3C. Okay, all right. Let's look at the answers. So again, we have the 4 categories: content, process, product, and learning environment. And here are your actual techniques. So it's 1 is content, which is the curriculum, adapting curriculum and using resources. 2 is the process. So you have learner needs analysis, flexible grouping, classroom management, etc. Product is the tools, like, you know, what the learner produces, like reports, answers, projects. Learning environment is giving clear guidelines, providing support, quiet place to work, student scaffolding, and student collaboration. So these are the 4 techniques for the 4 categories. Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. Quick participation, I like that. Now let's move on to an important section, which is the strategies. What strategies can we use to implement this kind of instruction? We've got those 4 categories. We've got some techniques. So what strategies, methods can we use in the classroom? Now, the very important one main point we have to look at here is that if we are able to follow Bloom's taxonomy and understand the levels of Bloom's taxonomy, half the job is done. So we can adapt instruction according to the taxonomies. So here you have the triangle which you are all familiar with, Bloom's taxonomy and the 6 levels. So we have remember and understand at the very base. We have apply and analyze somewhere in the middle. And at the top, we have evaluation and creation. So this is the Bloom's taxonomy with the 6 levels of competence. Okay, so let's keep this in mind before we move on. Okay, the first one, as I said, is Bloom's taxonomy. So you can adapt and differentiate the content and map your content to the 6 taxonomies. So you can have content which will fit something for this level, the remember and understand level. You can have content which will fit into the creation or the evaluation level. Okay, so this is the mapping of the content. So learners can perform at the lower order or the middle order or the higher order level of mastery. So you can design tasks which are suitable for mixed groups of students. The learning outcomes, the very important point here is the learning outcomes will be the same whether you're doing a lower order thinking exercise or you're doing a HOTS exercise, where it's a higher order thinking exercise. The learning outcomes will be the same, but the type of task which you give will be different. Another strategy here is rotating learning stations. Learning stations are when you set up tables. It's very simple. You can just have tables with students grouped all around them in different stations, and each station will have a different topic, like all these which I'm giving you here, just for answering questions or watching a video, reading an article, or the teacher can be there discussing. So the students can rotate between the tables according to their preference. So this is learning stations. We can have task cards. So the teacher groups students into different groups according to ability or mixed groups, and then you hand out cards to the groups so that within the group they can separate the tasks among themselves. Then how do you engage learners with different learning styles? So you can have videos, you can have infographics, using infographics that is for visual learners, and audio materials for auditory learners, role plays for kinesthetic learners, using a lot of charts and illustrations within the lesson, within the text. And then you can also give, when you give instructions, instead of just speaking the instructions, you can also give written directions to the learners. And use realia, use physical objects which they can touch. So that is again for kinesthetic learners. You can give them time to create artistic reflection. So when they are given a lesson or something to think about, they can also draw. For those who can't express themselves by speaking, they can draw. And they can do sketch noting or doodling. Sketch noting is now very, very popular among many schools, many teachers, so that children, instead of writing notes, they make little sketches or little doodles, which they all love to do. And here is an example of visual note-taking or sketch notes. I mean, this is a very sophisticated example by Sylvia Duckworth, who is an expert. She also runs courses on sketchnoting, but school children have been known to do this kind of visual note-taking, which might help them. Okay, so more strategies. Think, pair, share. Why do we need think, pair, share? Because it caters to different types of personalities. So the ones who are slightly introverted would prefer to think by themselves, but then you put them in a pair and then they're able to share it. And then in the group, everybody talks together. So this is a very, very handy tool to suit all types of learning and giving learners voice and choice. Again, in differentiated instruction, students are given a choice about what they want to learn. So when you offer questions, you're offering them an option. Like you can give a range of topics or a range of questions where they can choose which they want to answer, and then according to that, you can assess them. So this makes it much easier for students who don't fit into one size. Like I said, one size fits all does not work here. Formative assessment, of course, continuous assessment is one of the key strategies which you will be using here. Then grouping. Grouping is extremely critical because you can do it in many ways. You can have all the higher achievers together and the lower achievers together, which may not be a good idea. You can mix them all up, hoping that, there will be some, that is what we normally do. We mix all the learners together. But very often the lower achievers just sit tight and don't do anything. So it depends on what kind of tasks you're giving and what kind of groups you want to make. If you're giving out task cards, like I mentioned earlier, when you're giving out task cards, you can give task cards to the higher achievers and to the lower achievers in separate ways. You can do that within one group, and then later on they can collaborate on the answers. So you can have 3 different types of groups. So my question to you is, again in the chat box, please, how do you usually group students? So do you group them randomly or do you group them by learning level? How do you group them? Can you give your answers, please? Is it A or B? A is random and B is learning level. Yes, B, A again. Okay, random, learning level. Okay, it seems to be equally divided as far as I can see. People are doing both. Okay, lot of Bs. Okay, lot of Bs. That's good to know. And I think there's an equal number of A's, which I can see. Okay, somebody has written both. All right. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So I think it's divided. You use both kinds of methods. Most people seem to be grouping them by mixed groups. All right. Most people seem to be using mixed groups by learning level. Okay, let's keep that also in mind. A lot of things to park in our heads now. Okay, good. Fine. Now we have looked at the categories. We've looked at the strategies which we can use. Yes. Out of these strategies, which one do you think would suit you best in your classroom? Can you name any one strategy in the chat box? If you want, I can bring back those strategies. Okay, we have all these here. We can go back. We have Bloom's taxonomy. Then we have rotating stations. We have task cards. We have all these different learning styles. Okay, think, pair, share. Yeah. Sketch notes. Grouping. TPS. Okay, a lot of people have said TPS. Grouping according to learning level. Okay, good. What is 4? Which one is 4? Now I've lost track. Okay. A lot of people have said 4. Sketch notes. All right. Very good. You think it's a good idea. Whiteboard writing. Role play. Fine. Think, pair, share, and role plays. Fine. Okay. Excellent. Discussing with the teacher. Very good. Is that a question you're asking? Discussing with the teacher? A lot of people seem to be fascinated with 4. Sketch notes. Yes, there's a lot of literature available on sketch notes. Yes, rotating stations. Very good. Yeah, learners with different learning styles. 4. Fluency circle. Very good, Kavita. Fluency circle for speaking. Think, pair, share. Yes, Saraswati. Yeah, good. So I think a lot of people have chosen sketch noting, and also I think role plays. Okay, interaction and discussion. Yeah, SWOT analysis. Very good. Thank you for that. That's a very good strategy. SWOT analysis. Dr. Shweta Arora. I think that's also a very good strategy which we can add here. Good. Thank you so much for your responses, and thank you for responding quickly. Now let's look at the practical part of it. We've looked at the theory, we've looked at the background, we've looked at the components, the 4 elements, we've looked at the various strategies which we can use. So now let's look at how you, the teacher, can apply the strategies in the classroom. So putting it into practice. Now we are going to look at some examples from state board textbooks. I have chosen state board textbooks from Gujarat and Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. So these are all quite balanced. I feel that our textbooks, the exercises are quite balanced in terms of competencies. We have some lower order as well as higher order questions. How you need to execute them in the classroom. How would you need to actually practice it in the classroom? That's what is important here. So grouping is important, and also how do you assign the tasks? So look at this standard 6 example. There are 2 levels of exercise here. They are quite small, but if you can see, on the left is a project on freedom fighters and revolutionaries. You can see that you have, it says 2 sentences about Gandhiji, and then you have to find your own freedom fighters or revolutionaries. On the right is a very straightforward, simple activity. Identify the number of children and who is standing where and all that. So these are just 2 examples from our own government. This is Gujarat board textbook. Now look at this standard 8 textbook. Here we have an example of a lower mastery task. So this is the story. It's a summary of Tare Zameen Par. And there is a sequencing exercise. You just have to put the sentences in the sequence. So connected to this, in the same textbook, I found a writing exercise about primary health centers. It says write a few sentences about a primary health center, visit it, or get some information and write. It's not directly related to this topic about Tare Zameen Par. If you remember, this is about a boy with a challenge who is bullied by his friends. So what kind of extension activity can we have for this exercise, for this example here? We have a sequencing exercise. So what kind of extension activity can you have? For example, a writing task or a project. Can you give me some examples in the chat box? Yes, it was about a dyslexic boy. So there is already a lots exercise here. Can you think of any one activity for an extension, a slightly higher order activity? This will be for the children who finish fast. We have fast finishers in the classroom. In any classroom, we have those who are a little slower, and we have fast finishers. So what kind of activity can we have? Writing task. Think or share a similar experience. All right, very good. Project. What kind of project? Interview. All right, group discussion. Interview of who and who. And group discussion on what topic? All right, composition. Again, you haven't specified the topic. Dr. Singh says role playing. Okay, have a role play. Write up the story. Write 5 sentences on the same issue or a similar issue. All right. Oral narration. Yes. What does... okay. Writing a paragraph. Preparing an ad. That's interesting. Do you have any challenges? Yes. Okay, very good. Excellent ideas. Thank you. Really good ideas here. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to a video-based activity which you are going to do right here. All right. So I'll be playing a video for you. Before we start the video, you're going to watch it. Yeah, please pay attention to this. Watch it. And then what tasks can you create based on this video, based on remembering, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So we have 2 lower order tasks and we have 2 higher order tasks. Remembering and analyzing is the lower order task and evaluating and creating is the higher order task. So what tasks can you create for this video? All right. So now let's watch the video. Please note down any tasks which you can think about. Shall I stop sharing?
Ma'am, could you turn on your camera and mic, please?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You can share your PPT as well.
Isn't it already there?
Because we played video, I think it got encrypted.
Right. It's not coming on Xavier.
Can you click on screen share icon, ma'am?
Yeah.
Try it now, ma'am. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I think even as we were watching, a lot of people have been writing very good comments about what kind of tasks. So I've been noting down. Imagine a different ending, make a list of the things you viewed, poster about the movie, character redesign, and a new narrative. Excellent. Give your reflections on the video. Fantastic. Writing task. Yes. Create a picture story. Think, pair, share. Make a happy ending. Okay. So I think all of you have been thinking a lot. Analyzing. Okay, a lot of people have written analyzing. I guess it means analyzing the various events and what happens in the end, isn't it? Because the ending is very important here for us. Okay, character sketch, create a dialogue, review of the video, characterization. Okay, thank you so much. I've got fantastic answers here. Unfortunately, we are running short of time, so I'll have to move on and show you some suggested activities. Xavier?
Click on the PPT and then go to the next slide, ma'am. It'll move.
No, it's not moving.
Shall I share the PPT in the
yeah. You can just share it because it's almost done.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm still getting a lot of answers. Role play with role reversal. Oh, what a wonderful idea. Kavita Verma. Okay. Evaluating, choose the apt one. Yeah. And more answers here. Role play. Okay. Yes, are you sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Create a new story. Yeah. We have to keep moving. Further. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the one I wanted to talk about. So these are the suggested tasks which I have thought about. I think you've all had far better ideas. So you have mastery tasks and support tasks. Mastery task obviously for the higher achievers and support tasks for the slightly lower achievers. So you can just read through it. Mastery tasks, we have 5 options: a title, a poster. Poster will be, a subject will be on anger and anger management. And narrate in the lady's own words after she found out she was wrong. Create a survey about how we judge people and how we react. And then, of course, having a debate. And support tasks, simpler competency tasks. List the adjectives like short lady, thin boy, angry, shouting. Then gap fill with the past tense. Of course, use the verbs, jumped, ate, shouted. Now, again, for the poster, we had a poster about anger management there. Now we can have a poster about demonstrating different feelings, just like sad, happy, excited. So that will be a simpler level of poster. Speaking activity, tell your partner about a mistake which you committed. And instead of a debate, you can have a group discussion. So what you could do is make different groups and then assign different kind of tasks, or make the students themselves choose the kind of task they want to do based on something like this. They can make their own topics and they can have their own kind of tasks and then do it within their groups, whether it's higher achiever or lower achiever. So this was the activity which we have done based on differentiated instruction. Yes, next slide, please. So now that we have discussed about differentiated instruction, now we are looking at the impact, the pros and the cons. Next slide. This is just a section. So differentiated instruction can also come under inclusive teaching. Inclusive teaching is a very, very important part of our teacher development. And right now it's very, very critical because we have so much of trauma and psychological stress because of the lockdown and the pandemic. So inclusive teaching becomes extremely important. So it falls under the umbrella of inclusive practices, which include knowing the learner's needs, having empathy, being approachable to your learner, using personalization, knowing each student well and personalizing, giving them space and voice, and then accepting differences and celebrating diversity. Make sure that your learners also accept differences and celebrate diversity within the classroom. Next slide. Empathy here is very important. We talked about empathizing with the students. So it's understanding the core needs of the learner. It is not kindness. Kindness and empathy are two different things. And empathy is going to the very core of what a person is, to understand what they are and what they need. Mistakes is part of the discovery process. We talk about a mistake-friendly classroom. So again, use mistakes as part of your discovery. Empathy maps. There are various templates available on the internet for empathy maps. So you can collect information about your learners through polls or surveys, or even through classroom discussion, or through their even classroom homework. And then you can create an empathy map for yourself. Please look at my references, because there I've given the links for creating empathy maps. So an empathy map will increase a teacher's understanding of their learners. And also having empathy, it benefits your own instruction as well as the learner's performance. Okay, next slide. So look at the pros. We are looking at the pros of this approach, differentiated instruction. Like I said, it leads to better understanding. Teachers have a growth mindset. That is another huge ocean, growth mindset. That's also part of having empathy. Learners, importantly, they feel very comfortable and they don't feel so insecure. They feel less threatened. And it also comprises of high ability, middle ability, as well as students with disabilities who are challenged. So all types of students can be handled, or all types of students can be clubbed under this kind of differentiated instruction. And when we are giving out tasks, or when we are handing out knowledge, we are giving them choice and voice. Remember, we talked about choice and voice. So here they are given more options on how they can learn stuff and how they can learn what they are taught in the classroom. And this way they take on more responsibility for their own learning. It becomes very student-centric, and then they own their own knowledge. So they're able to understand better. So the content, therefore, becomes something which is user-friendly for them. Yes, let's move on to the next slide, please. What are the cons? What are the disadvantages of this? So teachers think that they need to plan for each single student. When they say differentiated, they think, oh my goodness, I have to plan a worksheet for each and every single student. What will happen to you is what you're looking at, that lady, that poor lady in that picture which you're looking at. This is what you'll end up as. You don't have to do that. You just have to plan cleverly so that you have at least 2 or 3 different groups. That's it. You can have task cards, you can have worksheets, but not to the extent that you're going down to the level of each and every individual. There's this educator called Chester Finn. He has written a lot of books against differentiated instruction. He uses the analogy. He says a teacher who using DI is like a GP with 23 patients, and each of them has a different symptom. One needs a cardiologist, one needs an orthopedician, another needs a diabetologist, one needs an oncologist. Yeah. And so he has to perform the roles of all these people, but he cannot do a great job with any of them. Now, this is his theory. I personally would disagree with that, because I think GPs are a great bunch of people and they're very good at diagnosis. So I think even a teacher who's behaving like a GP with 23 different patients is still a very good teacher. However, one more disadvantage is it does create a lot of extra work for the teacher, but it can be planned. And if you're smart enough, you can plan it so that you can cover it and you don't have to suffer like this lady there. Okay. Okay, so that's it. Let's go to the last slide. What were our learning outcomes? Understanding the meaning and implications. I hope we've done that. Strategies which we have looked at. Impact on the other approaches, classroom approaches, and then the pros and the cons. Apart from that, we have done an activity in which you've all participated, and that was really wonderful. And finally is the reference page, the last slide. A lot of references, useful information for you, and the 2 videos as well. Okay, and that's the last one. Last slide, please. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your answers. You've been a wonderful audience. And now we are open for questions.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for the enriching session. Thank you also for bringing out what is differentiated learning, its implications, how this could be integrated into our teaching context, and some very practical strategies to implement, and its pros and cons of the differentiated instructions. And I believe that there were a lot of questions in the chat box. Mm-hmm. So I would be happy if you could answer at least 3 to 5 questions.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Vinod K. Chopra asks, it is true that differentiated instruction is a must to instruct learners with different capabilities. Why do we then judge them through a 3-hour examination at the end of the day? Isn't that injustice with the students?
Yes, actually, yes, this whole webinar has been based on that premise that we do need to have differentiated instruction, and that we spoke about formative assessment, isn't it? We spoke about continuous assessment, formative assessment, handing out different kinds of tasks. So a 3-hour exam is not at all the best way to assess any student. If you looked at the graphic at the very beginning of my presentation, if you looked at that cartoon, actually, it shows you a variety of animals all being told to climb a tree, and that was their test. So in a sense, that is what we are doing with our students. So yes, it is injustice, but unfortunately, we do have to go with the system. The plus point there, the upside of it is that teachers in their classrooms individually can work with their students, also prepare them for exams. I mean, the 10th standard or the 12th standard, they do have to focus, but the way they do it, the way they execute it in the classroom, that is what is going to make a difference. And once the teacher is aware of the students' capacity and the capabilities, and I think builds up confidence, then even that 3-hour exam is going to become easier. That's what I hope. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. And another question by Dr. Ramani. Are there technology-based or technology-enabled solutions for providing differentiated instruction and for facilitating differentiated learning? Solutions that are evidence-based?
Yes, all these techniques which we looked at, for example, I think Think, Pair, Share was a very popular technique which everybody was selecting. It can very easily be translated into a virtual classroom. So many of these things can be, even rotating stations can be done virtually, because you can do it on Zoom, you can do breakout rooms, and you can have rotating stations with two or three different topics. So most of the ideas which are there, most of the strategies which are advocated for differentiated instruction can be translated into an online classroom. They don't need any special different apps or anything like that. So I think what we have looked at today is applicable to a virtual classroom as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Is that the question, or have I misunderstood it?
Yeah. So the question was on, are there any technology-based or technology-enabled solutions for providing differentiated instruction?
No, we don't have any separate, as far as I know, as far as my knowledge goes, there are no technology-based solutions, because differentiated instruction basically is not an identity by itself. It's included in your classroom instruction. It's just a way of approaching your classroom instruction. It's not a separate methodology. It's just a way of approaching your classroom instruction and a way of planning your classroom instruction so that different capability types are included. Right now, our classroom instruction has a series of exercises. At the end of the lesson, we have a series of exercises, which are done with all the 40, 50 children in the class, all at the same time. What DI is telling us is, don't do it all together. Don't put one size to fit all of them. Separate them into groups and then do it. Or identify the different groups and then mix them up. You have to think well and plan well to do it. That's it.
Yeah. Maybe one more question.
Yeah.
Niranjana asks, can instructions on metacognitive strategies help differentiated instruction and inclusive learning?
Okay, let's just simplify that question. When we use differentiated instruction in the classroom, when we are using an inclusive classroom, we do need to have very clear instructions. Because first of all, the learning goals, the learning outcomes have to be made very clear. It has to be clear to you. It has to be clear to the student. Okay. It also helps if you have a learning framework up on the board. That is something which students and teachers find helpful. The learning framework for the day. So when it's up there, all types of students know what they are going to do today. And based on that, the teacher handles her classroom instruction, or even if it's one period. Okay. So that way your instructions also have to be very, very clear. And you can also customize your instructions to suit different categories of students. Like I said, you can give written as well as oral instructions. You can even have a chart, a picture or a poster for your instructions. So that might help you in your classroom instruction.
Yes, ma'am. So thank you so much. And maybe the last one. How can we ensure successful use of differentiated instruction with the age group of 7 to 9 years?
Yes, definitely you can. I showed you a lesson from Standard 6. We also have examples from, I just didn't have time to show you. We have examples from Standard 3 and Standard 4. There, more than ever, you need to concentrate on the different levels. So you can have simple activities which you use with the primary classroom. And even there, you can separate the activities into higher level and lower level activities. So it is pretty easy to do it once you put some thought into it. The same kind of planning which you might do for an 8th or the 9th or the 10th standard, you can also do that with the 2nd or the 3rd standard student.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. And there were other questions also, so we might post personally those questions to you, and then you could answer them.
Okay.
And now it gives me an immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks. I wish to express my heartfelt gratitude to our resource person, Ms. Meena Sridharan. I thank her for accepting our invitation and enlightening us about differentiated learning. I am sure all our participants have significant takeaways from the session. Thank you, Ms. Ranjani, for introducing our resource person. I would like also to take this opportunity to thank the organizing committee of LTI for holding enriching webinars on a regular basis. Their meticulous planning requires special appreciation. Finally, I extend my sincere gratitude to all the participants for their enormous support in making this webinar a grand success. Yes. So thank you once again. And now may I hand over the floor to Dr. Xavier for further announcements before winding up.
Okay, thank you, Altai, and thank you, participants.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. So, participants, I have a few announcements to make. First, about the webinar, which is going to be held the next week. Our 72nd session of Altai webinar will be held on 10th October. The title of the session is Something Burning, Oil, Literature, and Hydrocarbon Culture by Dr. Prantik Banerjee from Nagpur. And the second is about certificates for the session. So from the month of October onwards, we have decided to issue certificates to foreign nationals too, in order to encourage participation from other country. So all those who participated in the webinar, you will receive a mail in another 30 minutes. And in the mail, you'll have 3 links, one for Altai members, the other for students, and one more link for foreign nationals. So you need to fill in your details in the appropriate Google form to help us provide you certificate. And I've got another information about our conference. Altai Annual Conference will be held in the month of November. The dates are 20, 21st, 27th, and 28th. These are the 4 days on which the conference will be held. And we have extended the deadline for submitting the abstract till 15th October. So we encourage you to submit your abstracts as soon as possible in the conference website. We'll send you the link by mail. And one more information, which I already shared you in the beginning of the webinar. Altai's signature product, the Journal of English Language Teaching, a print journal, a bi-monthly print journal, has now been included in UGC CAR list. We are striving hard to improve the quality and include it in Scopus and other popular indexing services. So in this regard, we need your cooperation by submitting quality articles for the journals. And the further detail about the journal and the links will be sent to you by mail. With that, we'll wind up this webinar. Thank you, everyone.